Hey guys, Michael here. I just visited Cultivate 17 on Sunday. It's the one of the premier horticulture trade shows and conferences in the U.S. And I had to meet some of our collaborators there that we're working with, and so I paid to go into the trade show. It's not cheap. It's $55 just to get into the trade show, but it was well worth it. I feel like I got plenty of value out of it. There's 650 vendors there, so everyone from a lot of U.S. based to a lot of European, Holland, China, Korea, Japan, all that sort of thing. So around the world, some really cool, innovative technology, and so I had three takeaways, and I just want to kind of go through those. The first one is the automation aspect, and the industry, especially in the hort, is automating very rapidly. And that leads me to the second thing, and the reason for that automation is there's a lot of money in horticulture. I think a lot of people don't realize that the horticulture industry, there's a lot of money to be made. Whereas a lot of people eat vegetables in only a certain amount, or focused on local vegetables, the horticulture industry, the biggest thing for them is shipping. So shipping the stuff from California is not an option, so it has to be a lot more locally and regionalized. And it really makes sense for having those plants closer, because if you stick them in a truck for a couple of days, they really don't look great. So that the horticulture industry, there's money to be made, and if you're not capitalizing on that, at least growing some transplants or some plants for your local markets, I think you're missing out. The third thing I wanted to bring out from that would be there's a lot of new tech moving in as well. Just in some cool stuff, some of that automation we talked about earlier, but just new tools, new materials. I even saw some pots made out of recycled water bottles. I'll show you in a little bit, but I'll go ahead, kind of dive in and kind of show you a little bit of the show, a little few of the things I saw, and I'm also going to show you like 8 or so different tools and systems that I thought were worth mentioning, that I thought might bring value. All different ranges of different things, but I wanted to show those to you. So first thing I wanted to show you was the just the trials area. So they had several hundred different new varieties out there. Mostly with them were flowering plants or that sort of thing. But there was also, there's some beautiful new hydrangeas coming. Some, dark blue. This is a lavender, which I thought was super nice. And then also they had some vegetables as well. Now the vegetables weren't really well represented, maybe 12, 20 different varieties. But, and they weren't really well displayed too, just because of the size pots they had. So like they had a watermelon, there was little tiny baby watermelons on it, nothing you could actually see or look at or see what the final fruit looked like. So a little disappointing on that. But again, this is more of a horticulture, so people that are buying those seeds at this show are more going to be selling them as bedding plants. This was a really cool thing here, this hose connector. Now what that is that in Europe, that's pretty much the only style of hose fitting they use, and the reason is there's no male or female. I mean, at either end they just stick one of those, and it doesn't matter what end they've got, they connect together. They're not cheap, they're pretty expensive, but you can drive over them with your forklift and you're not going to damage anything. So we talked to a guy there, and he's interested in talking to us about setting up a dealership or distribution of that. So we're gonna get some pricing, kind of see if it actually makes sense to actually do, or if it's completely priced out of range for you guys. So I thought that was pretty cool, and definitely that would save. Quick connects are something that's very valuable on the farm, but 99% of the ones I've tried have just been incredibly frustrating. So a heated rolling flood bench, and so basically it just has a pump and a reservoir, and so every so often it just comes up and waters your trays for you. So I thought that was really cool. And here's some of the automation I was telling you about. You can see here the different automation here. So this is taking, I think like 388s or something, and moving them out into 6-packs. Something that would normally take a lot of time. Now this right here is just a pot plate filler. And so this just takes pots and sticks them in trays, and then obviously beyond that was another machine that filled it, and then it went down to a line where you'd actually stick it. but I thought this was pretty cool. Obviously something most growers are not going to need. That piece alone was like $25K just for that one machine. So yeah, it's expensive, but you know, they kind of, talked to the salesman and they kind of said, well, in this situation it makes sense, but in this situation it doesn't. So it's, you know, obviously it's an investment, and with labor costs increasingly getting more and more expensive, it makes sense for some growers. This was those pots I was telling you about, made out of water bottles, and they actually gave me some. I don't know what their retail for is, you know, 30, 50 cents. But they have ones for the trade, so for actually people that would use them in like a nursery to put products in. And then they also had little tiny, well, different sized ones for like ornamentals and stuff like that you can use in your home. Let's go ahead and jump into, though, the other varieties of stuff that I picked up. And seriously, guys, I went through the show and I only got through probably a third of it, and this is all the information I picked up. So a lot of info out there. I tried to distill it down into the top couple things. This is a new product from Dram. So this is a full flow. So you'd have your nozzle here for watering, full flow, and it's really easy to just swing this back and forth. Really simple. Not a cheap tool, but something that you'll use for a very long time in your transplant production house, and a really nice, and Dram has great quality. I've always been impressed with their stuff. I love their nozzles. They kind of lead the industry in their nozzles. So yeah, that's that. Let's jump over to here, though, and kind of wanted to show you the filters. So now this isn't a new company to me. So I've known about Armad before. They're an Israeli company, but they make incredibly high quality and automated filters. So instead of those massive sand filters you're used to using, you can replace it with this. Now they're expensive. Probably 2 to 3 times the cost of your sand filter, but here's the thing, is that they're automated, and you never have to back flush them. They automatically sense when you can buy ones that automatically sense when they've, you know, plugged up too much. They automatically go into a backflow cycle, clean themselves out, and then keep working. So there's ones that are electrically powered, there's ones that are just manually, when they sense, just go into their purge cycle, and there's manual ones as well that you can just, you know, go down there and hand crank and clean the filter when it gets too dirty. So bunch of different ones for there. Again, it's usually for a pretty serious system. If you're irrigating probably 2 to 5 acres, you're not really going to be using this, but if you're doing more than that, then I think this definitely makes sense, especially if you're using pond water or surface water for your irrigation. All right, another one. So this is Overland Carts. These are electric dump carts, and so not super pricey, in a couple $1,000 range, but they will basically haul for 8 to 10 hours a day. And yeah, if you're moving a lot of compost in the greenhouses, or if you're, you know, moving product around, like if you're like even a landscaper, these would make a lot of sense for, you know, power moving mulch around or something like that. So anyway, thought that was interesting. Not for everybody, but it's really great to see how far the electric battery market is coming that allows something like this to happen. All right, next item. So this was a grow film. So this it doesn't have a really good picture on their website, but you can kind of see there, it's kind of like a sheet of LED lights. And so they can customize it to however you use it. And so instead of using like individual LEDs, you just buy this sheet and they can tell you exactly, you can say, I want it for like a 2x4 area, and just lay them out there. And the thing about these LEDs is almost no heat output. So you don't have to worry about them being a certain distance away from your plants. So you can really stack tightly, like microgreens in like a grow room or something like that, or in a propagation chamber. You could put these in there to add a couple more days in there for your small plants. Probably not cheap. Again, I didn't go into pricing with them, and this is a new technology, so it's going to increase. But they were talking to me about the different ranges, and depending on the different types of plants you had, you need different ranges in there, and how that made sense, and how they could optimize and customize that. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is a really cool, and I think this is for a lot of people. This can be very useful. So what this is this is a greenhouse fan to help with greenhouse fan to help with movement of air in the greenhouse. But what it's also doing is it's also collecting and destroying bugs. So basically, you know, this is, you set these up in your greenhouse at different points, and it's going to help circulate the air and create dryness, but it's also collecting those bugs. And if you can kind of see here, you can see that area below there, which is basically capturing those bugs, and then every so often you go out and clean that out. But I thought that was really fascinating, especially if you are screening your houses. This would be one more step to keep keeping those bugs out of your greenhouse. Again, it's a Korean company, so their website is kind of hard to understand, but I did get some physical paperwork, and I'll try to see if I can get at least a phone number below in the comments so that you guys can contact them. Oh, this other thing from DRAM, which I was super excited about. So this is called a runout valve. And so what a runout valve does is when a water pressure system reaches PSI, this will close. But then when it starts to decrease, like let's say at the end of your irrigation, you turn it off. It will actually go ahead and open up. So after it gets down to a certain PSI, the valve opens and it drains out your lines. Now, why is this important? Well, in winter, normally we have to go through the house and take out all the anti-drip. Because if that water is held in that system, it'll end up blowing all the sprinklers off. The next time you go to use it, it just gets a mess. But what this does is this goes ahead and automatically drains that main line, so you don't have the problem of the water dripping on all the crops after you've been irrigating in there. So this is like a $12 to $20 part. Well, I think they're $15 on AM Leonard. But to me, it will save so much time and effort and money. It's to me, it's going to be required for a lot of our packages going forward. We'll be definitely adding this in there. All right, next. So this was another Korean company, and they had a smaller tool there, which was like more of a two-wheel tractor, more for making like high-raised beds, and you were supposed to be able to use it for cultivating. It was all right, a little weird. I didn't really see a use for it. I think it could be adjusted for use in the U.S., but this was what I was a lot more excited about, was the riding type cultivator. They said they've got to be able to get it into the U.S. So they've obviously got the emissions and all figured out. But and this would actually make great sense with finger weeders or a small basket. And this actually comes with articulating wheels in the front and rear. So you can see they just have the front, or you can do four-wheel articulation as well. And it's four-wheel drive as well, too. So didn't get a price point from them on this, but this would be something I think might be worth importing into the U.S. and playing around with. For the really small scale in greenhouses, being able to do close cultivation and work. So, definitely thought that was cool. All right, last thing here. So, fogging is nothing new in the U.S. I mean, a lot of southern, especially in the Southwest, they use this for cooling areas. But what this company has done is taken the droplet size down even smaller. So it's a dry fog, so that it won't actually, land on the plants and cause more humidity, which in the South, you definitely don't want more humidity. So they were talking about how this could be used for more places like in the deep South, even in Florida, to help cool things down. And also they were saying you could use this to actually put out pesticides or fungicides, actually. So you just fog the whole greenhouse. They'll just go through there. So didn't again get pricing on this, and it looks like a pricey system because you have to have an air pump and you also have to have a water pump. And in the case of their completely dry fog, you have to have reverse osmosis too to be able to clean, get that water perfectly clean, so it will go out to the small emitters. But definitely, I think there's some applications out there, and I really want to be playing more around with this in the future for cooling down areas, especially for growing, lettuce and stuff during the summer down in the South. I think this could be a huge advantage. But again, I got their information. I'm gonna be following up with them about a little more information on that. So. All right, guys, I hope that helped. I mean, I went to Cultivate 17, so you didn't have to. It was great, though. Again, 650 vendors. I only got through about 50% of them. Was there for about 4 hours, and after that, I was just like, you know what? I got to head home. There's only so much a man can take. But if you are interested in the hort world, definitely worth going. And you could spend 2 days just going to the trade show and getting all sorts of information. There's probably 15 to 18 greenhouse manufacturers, 10 or 12 media, people. So, all the different peat growers were there, showing their different products and stuff. I was able to take a 3D tour of a peat bog, which was super cool. Just saw how they harvest it and that sort of thing. So, yeah, if you're ever in Columbus, definitely check it out. And hope you guys have a great day.